an interesting story this morning, and I think that there was a sense that something was amiss in Buffalo, and that was confirmed this morning when Sean McDermott spoke to reporters and noted that Stefon Diggs not present for the mandatory minicamp that began today. Let's play what Sean McDermott had to say.
Steph is not here. Everybody else is here at the current time.
How concerned are you about that?
Oh, very concerned. Yeah, very concerned.
So we don't know all the details at this point on this. Diggs has been active as he always is on social media. He's posted some cryptic tweets through time. But this is not the same situation as years ago in Minnesota back in 2020 when he pretty much tweeted his way out of town when they realized they could get a really good trade package from Buffalo, and so they opted to move on. Stefon Diggs on his contract is due, I looked this up, $24.415 million this year. That includes a $22.745 million signing bonus that was part of a restructure just back in March. When you do that, the way that NFL teams create cap space, because of course the cap is real. Let's remind everyone the cap is real. When you do those, what they call simple restructures, what you're doing is you're converting a big chunk of base salary into a signing bonus because you can prorate the signing bonus over the remaining years of the deal. So a $22 million signing bonus this year counts as, quick math in my head, what is it, $4.5 million over each of the next 5 years. Something like that. I think I'm close, 24.4. So his contract right now is not tradable because he's got a mountain of dead cap space that would all accelerate into this year's cap or next year's cap. It's not realistic. Not to mention the fact that he's already gotten a $23 million signing bonus this year. He signed a big extension not that long ago that pays him pretty close to the top of the market type of money. It's difficult to believe the Bills are going to look to move on from. It's really not a tradable contract from their standpoint. It's also hard to imagine that Stefon Diggs thinks he's getting a big raise someplace else. So what exactly is going on in Stefon Diggs' head? I'm not certain. I haven't seen Stefon since the Super Bowl. Seemed to be in good spirits. We talked for a little bit there. I sent him a message. We'll see if he gets back. Maybe there's some clarity that he wants to get out there. He certainly likes to be, I think it's fair to say, and I think he'd agree with this, the center of attention at times. He enjoys the people are talking about him. But this is really unusual for a player who, again, has already restructured his contract. He's going to be there. There's not really a way to trade him to be holding out for a mandatory minicamp. Now, you can sit back and say he's got $99,000 in fines. He's making $24 million this year. This really doesn't matter. Missing minicamp's not that big of a deal, but it does certainly raise questions because why do players hold out from minicamp? You still got training camp coming up in 6 weeks. You're going to get fined close to $100,000 if you miss all 3 days of it. We've seen other guys show up. I mentioned earlier a couple of the trade request guys. Yesterday, we know Budda Baker showed up for Cardinals minicamp after he had requested trade earlier in this offseason. Devin White today is at the Bucs minicamp. He's not participating because Todd Bowles said they want to see what type of shape he's in, which sometimes yes, sometimes no could be code for, yeah, he's just not going to practice. He doesn't want to be out there, so we're just going to kind of let that settle for a minute. Don't know if that's the case here, but Devin White at least showed up. Jonah Williams also showed up to Bengals camp. He had requested a trade earlier this offseason, hired a new agent, wants to be a left tackle. They signed Orlando Brown, gave him a whole mountain of money. Those guys showed up. The only other player besides Connor Williams, who missed the Dolphins minicamp last week, that's holding out right now is Danielle Hunter of the Vikings, which is strictly contract related. With Diggs, there's not a lot contract-wise that's going to take place. And it's not about going on to a different team. So are there lingering frustrations from how last season ended? That was a really challenging season for a lot of reasons for the Bills, and Diggs was one of the players who at various points voiced some frustration about the situation. But if it's not about money, and there's really no way to engineer a trade, what does Diggs want? Or is this just some part of the new NFL where, what are you going to do, take $99,000 from me? I'm going to go to Bermuda for 3 weeks right now. I don't care. I mean, the offseason program, This is one of the interesting things, too, I think that's played out the last couple of off seasons here. So when I started covering the NFL 20 years ago, no veterans showed up for the voluntary practices in the spring. It was almost all rookies, just the young guys who needed more time. But you didn't see, 10, 15, 20 of those veteran players till training camp. Then sometime in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, it became this thing of like almost a competition between the head coaches of who can get the most players to show up. And if you got 100% participation, you could thump your chest and say, hey, look at the buy-in we've got, the program we're building here. All these guys want to be here. Sometimes teams like the Packers would just structure in huge workout bonuses to make sure guys showed up,
right,
so that they couldn't, miss those. But then now in these past few years, and it probably dates back to COVID, you've seen more players going back and training on their own again through the course of OTAs. Remember, 2020, there was no off-season program. 2021, it was still COVID impacted. Then when teams came back last year, you started just seeing more of those players not showing up. Is this the next level of it, where the top players who are getting the most money just simply don't care about a $100,000 fine? I mean, it's basically like if you have a $100,000 workout bonus, guys blow those off all the time.
Right.
There is something, though, about in some way violating what the coach would think is sort of the trust of the team by not being at a mandatory activity. And so this is going to be an interesting situation to watch because, again, there's not a clear thing that Stefon Diggs plausibly could want here. Like, what's the action item? What will make him show up? Is it he wants them to sign another player? Is it he's frustrated about something else? We'll find out. I'll certainly be trying to find out after the show. But a unique situation there. I finally connected with his agent who had been going back and forth because he kept calling me while we were on the air, Adisa Bakari, who told me, and I quote, "I don't know why Sean said what he said today. There are things being worked out on the way to being worked out. Stefon has been there since Sunday night. He was in the building this morning." Now, Diggs is not there currently. He was there to take a physical. He was with the team. We shall see. Does he rejoin? It sounds like Josh Allen is scheduled to speak shortly, so maybe Josh knows the whereabouts of his brother. But as I've mentioned, this is not the same as the Minnesota situation because there's not a way for the Bills, realistically, to trade Diggs' contract. They just restructured him back in March, gave him a $22+ million signing bonus. He's got so much dead cap, they would take a massive hit over this year and next year to trade him. And so whatever needs to be worked out, because, again, that's what his agent, Adisa Bakari, says. There's things that need to be worked out. We shall see exactly how that all goes down. Dalvin Cook also called us earlier. One of the other big stories with...
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.